Today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about that real estate ain't nobody talking about, and that is that farm real estate, baby. So let's jump right into this. Welcome back to Become Investors. Today I want to talk about that lifestyle, stacking that hay and shoveling that shit, because that's how I grew up. Yes, I grew up on a farm, guys, where I still live. I'm trying to migrate to the city, but I want to talk about that real estate ain't nobody talking about, and that is agriculture and farm real estate, guys. I'm going to teach you something interesting today. My parents' estate here, when they bought it, it was condemned. They bought it about 30 years ago for about $34,000. Today, this estate is worth about 1.3 to 1.5, and that might sound million. That might sound oppressive to you, but trust me, it's not. If you live in Ontario, in Canada here, guys, and you go to the city, which is only an hour from here, real estate costs anywhere from like $2, $3, $5 million for nothing. We have 60 acres, and you couldn't go to the city and buy 60 acres for anywhere near close to what you could buy this place for, which is kind of annoying and weird, frustrating. But I want to talk about why no one talks about farm real estate, because I'm sure when you hear about real estate, you're used to hearing about 60, 100 unit deals. There's no units here, guys. It's one house, a barn, and 60 acres of nothing. It's a beautiful farm, it's a beautiful property, it's a whole different lifestyle, but most people won't get into farming today, and I don't recommend you get into farming. It is a dying industry that is only for the elite, and it's a shame that that is how it has become. But let me run some numbers here. If we wanted to make money on this farm, so what my mom does is she's actually a sheep farmer. That's how she sustains a living, and my dad does foundations and things in homes. Bit of an older generation, but they seem to enjoy the hard work, which is a little different from our generation. Our generation is a little bit more passive, a little bit more lazy. Let's be real, guys. But when it comes to farming, it's such a tough industry, because every time I bring my friends out from the city, I'm like, do you want to see what a Lamborghini looks like out here? Well, it's that combine in the field plowing. Actually, that combine costs more than a Lamborghini. A combine costs anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000, and that's before you spend $1 million on your 50 or 60 acres. And then on top of that, you got to maintain that. You got to hire employees. You got to get the seeds. You got to plant everything. You need so much multiple tools to pull farming off, and the only people that are succeeding in it are the elite, or people in a really unique niche industry. The most successful farmers I know, honestly, are chicken farmers on a grand scale. There's a few other guys. What a lot of people are doing around here lately is they're renting the land out. So for our 60 acres, we'd be lucky if we get somewhere around $800 a month or $10,000 a year just renting the land out. So essentially, people would come in, they'd plant their corn, they'd whatever, and they would just manage the land. And then you could also probably rent the property out. Say you can get somewhere between $1,500, $2,000 a month, and that's probably on the lower ball of things. So maybe you could bring in somewhere between $2,800, $3,000 a month just in this farm. But when you're talking about $1 million estate, guys, that's not that great. That's really not that great at all. And especially if you're trying to look into getting into farming. Everybody I know that has gone into farming recently is so underwater, so in debt, or they're giving up on the whole dream of it because it's just too hard to sustain. It's a really weird part of our culture nobody talks about. And you're never going to see your Grant Cardone or anybody like that ever getting into farming. It's not anything anybody talks about. What I would like to do here personally, what I've recommended to my parents, is trying to sucker up to somebody in the municipality and see if we can sever an acre off. But because we're in Ontario, we live in something called the Greenbelt, which just essentially means they want to keep this as protected land, and they're not going to allow you to sever off certain acreage depending on how much you have. So if I think it's the 65 or 67 something is the limit. If you have 67 acres, you can sever an acre off to build a house. We sit, I think, around 63, 64 acres. So I figure if we go to a municipality and sucker up to somebody, maybe they'll let us sever an acre off. We could build another property on the outskirts of our acres, and you could sell two properties instead of one. So when my parents decided to retire, I mean, you could just take out a mortgage on a $200,000 loan, and you could $200,000 or $300,000. You could build a whole nother house, and then you could sell two properties instead of one. This is all forward-looking because my parents are going to be looking into retiring probably in the next 5 to 10 years tops. So they're trying to figure out what they're doing, and they've done a really good job with this property. And I'm throwing up some photos and some videos now of this property just to give you guys an idea of kind of how this looks. As a farmer personally, and it's weird saying that because I'm not a farmer anymore by any means, but growing up in this lifestyle, it's a whole different way of living, and it's a shame that it's become such a tough way of living. Now, there's not a lot else we can do out here. It's really interesting to see what people are doing to develop the land, to try and come up with ways to make money at it. There's actually a place down the road from us that is doing drones. So they bought a huge property and a lot, and they're literally using it as a drone school to teach people to fly different kinds of drones. And then if you go down the road the other way, there is a massive marijuana grow house, which I'm sure you've seen me talk about many of times. It's interesting how innovative people have to be to make farmland work, because you can't just do it with basic crops anymore. There's just not enough money in it unless you're on a grand scale and you're one of those people that have already have the investment and you know what you're doing and you've scaled it and you've made it work. Because every farmer I know, I swear, is millions of dollars in debt. Because when you go to milk cows, guys, we're not going to go. Have you ever been to Cuba? Any other, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe India, you're going to notice the way they do farming is a lot more retro than we do it here. In Cuba, they're actually still using bulls to pull plows. So they're using bulls still to pull plows, guys. So essentially when they're plowing a field to plant seeds, they'll literally use a bull and a plow, whereas here we use tractors and machinery. And because we don't want to do the manual labor required, which is painstaking, let's be real, you want the equipment to achieve it, guys. So it's not as simple as it used to be, and nobody wants it to be that simple, because trust me, if you're like me and you've ever done it, let me tell you some of the things when it comes to maintaining farmland. You have to go out and pull rocks out of a field, because when the machine goes through to plant seeds and stuff, if it picks on a big rock, it'll destroy the equipment, and now you're thousands of dollars in the hole because you got to get repairs, and then you're delayed on planting because now you also have to get the machine fixed. It's a challenge and a half, guys, and it's very physically demanding, and there is no way in hell I know any farmer that is making minimum wage farming. It's so ridiculous. Let's talk about cows and milk. Cows, dairy, milk, probably one of the higher end in farming. But if you're getting into it now, and even the guys I know still doing it are way, way leveraged in debt because they don't want to do it by hand. They literally buy machines, guys. So when you're milking, like my mom uses a milker to milk her sheep. She actually sells the sheep milk. It's a very niche product that a lot of people are in high demand for to make yogurts and cheese and things of those nature. And essentially you're going to get something like an automatic milker or something where you'll hook up the milking machine to the animals, guys, and it'll fill the tanks up. But those milkers are also $1 million machines, guys. The one my mom has is much more downgraded, but it's still, I think, like a $15,000 or $20,000 machine, and she's only managing about 60 sheep. Really weird niche industry, guys. But like the neighbors went bankrupt. Our neighbor actually went bankrupt trying to milk cows and do cow farming, and now that property has been completely severed off. Say they're getting about $10,000 a year for that property, and then again, guys, they're probably bringing in somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 to rent the house out. I'm sure they're making enough money to cover the mortgage on that farm. Well, I want you guys to tell me what you think about farmland, and do you guys know anybody that owns farms? Are they underwater? Let me know in the comment section below. I imagine there's not too many of you because there's just no one talks about this kind of industry. There's a lot of people that turn a lot of these farms into like hunting oases where you can go and get together because we have a lot of property. You'll go out back and you can hunt or something like that, or you can turn it into a shooting range. I just don't know anybody that's buying farmland for farmland today. It's such a weird thing to talk about because it doesn't seem like there's any money in it. So when you look at something like, I'm trying to think of a good stock that's an example. I'm trying to think of the food stocks, guys, because there's some big farming stocks that are out there. Maybe I'll talk about some of those and do some deep dives, because there's one that I know for sure is like Saputo. They do a cheese. I've looked at for an Italian family. They run a cheese company. I've used to look into it a lot, and I think that stock's up pretty well. Maybe I'll throw it up. I haven't looked into it forever. There's Maple Leaf Foods is another big one. Those are massive factories. I know a few people that actually work for Maple Leaf Foods, and they had some interesting things to say about it. But so I don't get sued, I'm not going to open my mouth because that'd be more like insider information. But other than that, guys, I want you to let me know in the comment section below what you think about all of this stuff. What do you know about farmland? Have you ever looked into farm real estate? It's such an off topic because I mean, everyone's talking about commercial, industrial, and of course, we're talking about 100 friggin' units. It's just something that everyone's always talking about, but nobody's like, oh, let's go buy a farm. Let's buy farm real estate, except for Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says farmland. There's a lot of guys talking about water, if you can find land that produces water. We have natural springs. The cool thing about this farm that I find most interesting, guys, is in a lot of places in the world, there's no natural water. You have to manufacture the water, boil it, whatever, it could kill you. Here we actually have natural springs that get filtered by the field. So essentially what I mean by this is we have a big field that sits low enough that it's near a spring where we don't want the field to get flooded. It'll be really marshy and mucky. So what happens is you have a tile put in place. And what a tile is, it's just like an underground pipe that collects the water and drains it all off into a stream. But that stream and where that water comes from is actually naturally filtered, and it's spring water. You can take a cup and just let it pour right in out of that out of the tile that comes out of the field near the stream, and you can just drink it. It's one of my weirdest and favorite things to do when people come down from the city. I like showing them you can shoot guns out here. You can't do that in the city. You can drink water right out of the ground. It's not going to kill you, and it's probably a lot healthier for you because you're getting a lot of the natural minerals and things of that nature. You can do your own organic food. I know a lot of nut jobs like the idea of farms because you can be more self-sustained, and if things ever collapse. Which brings me to the topic of the big collapse. If the collapse comes, guys, and something horrific happens, I love the way people think their gold and their silver and their hedge funds are going to save them from an epic disaster, but it's not. My mom always said if the banks go bust, the money in your pocket is just as worthless, and that is a sad reality, and nobody's going to want your gold or your silver. It's not the 1930s, guys, where the government was banning gold and silver. That's why it became worth so much. If something got that bad, the only thing that's going to matter is food and water, and when you can sustain food and water, you're going to be fine no matter what. But again, that always comes with its own debates, and luckily you can grow that here. But personally, I'm not that fearful, and if things get that bad, there's gonna be a lot more things you're gonna have to worry about. But it's an interesting topic, so let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, slap a like on it. It's Saturday, guys. I gotta get ready for some shows, so stay cool, stay awesome. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.